Greetings to all watching. My name is Ira Idol, and today I will go over the neurodiversity movement in the late 2000s. The last chapter was very dense and took 3 videos to get through, but this one is much shorter. That doesn't mean there isn't much to talk about, just that less is being covered. I guess you can consider this a palate cleanser of sorts. Here's where we're at on the timeline from around 2006 to 2009. Blogging was very popular on the internet around this time. People still do blogs now, but you see more activity on social media than you do on blogs. Groups of blogs related to the same topic are often referred to as a blogosphere. For autistic people and allies, this was no different. There was an autism blogosphere. This one in particular was known as the Autism Hub. It was a collection of blogs started in late 2005 by Kevin Leitch of Left Brain Right Brain, who is a parent. It featured many autistic blogs, as well as blogs by parents of autistic people who were down with the cause of neurodiversity. In 2007, Kevin got busy and needed to cut back on his responsibilities, so he handed the hub off to Dave Seidel. Autism Hub was home to blogs that discussed a wide variety of things related to autism, the most prominent topic at the time being discourse about vaccines. Many of these blogs tackled vaccine misinformation, including the myth that vaccines caused autism. This wasn't exactly a fringe belief at the time. In the United States, several leading presidential candidates in the 2008 election entertained the idea, as well as the priority of searching for a cure. Both Barack Obama and John McCain, the candidates for the Democratic and Republican tickets respectively, spoke about this. It's entirely possible that there was some influence from Autism Speaks and company in their rhetoric. It seems that Obama has changed his mind since then. McCain died in 2018, and I can't find a retraction or any statement from him that indicates he ever changed his mind. Vaccine misinformation is at an all time high right now because of the pandemic. It's very important to be properly informed on what the science says, and that does often change as our understanding of the world changes. Even though major politicians were supporting the idea that autism may be caused by vaccines, I don't think that necessarily means it was any more controversial to say it then than it is now. The blogs on Autism Hub demonstrate that many people were skeptical of that idea, even in the late 2000s. I think it has more to do with what lobbyists were convincing the politicians more than anything. Defeat Autism Now started something called Bernie's Wall Against Autism. For $50, you could put the name of an autistic person you know on a brick wall made to figuratively stop the tsunami of autism. Autism is sometimes referred to as a tsunami, and this was especially true in the 2000s and early 2010s. It's called that because of the rising prevalence of autism diagnoses, which some attribute to a growing crowd of people in need of help, ergo, a tsunami. The origins itself of calling autism a tsunami are actually really messed up. It comes after a real tsunami that happened in Indonesia. The wall against autism included a brick that said 0 in 150 as a way of saying they eventually wanted no autistic people to exist. The current autism prevalence estimate was that of 150 people were autistic. The number is now 1 in 54 as of writing. It has more to do with more autistic people getting diagnosed than there being more autistic people born. This brick wall was made as a memorial to Bernard Rimlin, who died in 2006. A new autism clinic opened in Lynchburg, Virginia called the Rimlin Center, and this brick wall was a tribute to Rimlin's legacy. Well, Rimlin's legacy was controversial to say the least, especially for the neurodiversity movement. In the spirit of nothing about us without us, autistic people and allies, many of whom were involved in the Autism Hub, created their own virtual brick wall called the Wall Against Hate. This turned the concept on its head, making it instead about ending ableism, not autism. You can see that wall here. The Rimland Center is still open and provides services not covered by insurance, calling autism a neurodevelopmental problem. So that's not exactly good. The wall against hate is, though, in my opinion. There are several anti vaccine organizations. Many of them were started in the 2000s and are still active now. Three of them are pictured here: Generation Rescue, Age of Autism, and Safe Minds. Their existence was always dangerous, but it's especially concerning now with misinformation about COVID vaccines running amok. Generation Rescue was started by Lisa and JB Hanley. It was later led by celebrity Jenny McCarthy, one of the most prominent anti vaccine celebrities. Jim Carrey was also very involved with this organization, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Those three are probably the most well known anti vax celebrities. They attempted to open an integrative health clinic in 2017. However, it was promptly halted because it turns out they had $500,000 of unpaid invoices for the construction contractor. The lawsuit was settled, and the property was instead developed as Fior Salon Suites, a barbershop. I'll take 10,000 barbershops for whatever these guys were planning. J.B. Hanley published a book in 2018 called How to End the Autism Epidemic. However, he seems to have changed his rhetoric as of late, recently publishing a book called Underestimating an Autism Miracle, about how, after discovering letterboards, he can finally know his son's thoughts. I would err on the side of caution, though, because he still seems to be an anti vaxxer and is still very much in cahoots with McCarthy and Carey. Giving your non speaking son access to robust communication is great, but it is the absolute bare minimum. Letterboards are already seen as controversial because they're pseudoscientific according to some. I don't personally believe that, but having someone known for pushing pseudoscience promote letterboards is not a good look. Safe Minds, whose tagline is, as you can see, resolving the autism crisis, so not exactly aligned with neurodiversity. They were founded in the year 2000 by a group of parents. They published a report known as Autism, a novel form of mercury poisoning. Mercury is an element that anti vaxxers often believe causes brain poisoning, leading to someone becoming autistic. Safe Minds has championed this idea for years. And now we come to Age of Autism. Age of Autism was founded by Dan Olmsted in 2007. They are once again an anti vaccine organization that spreads the disproven idea that autism is caused by vaccines. They promote a number of other conspiracy theories and take positions that lean pretty hard to the right politically. However, one thing to note is that they are against several things most neurodiversity advocates are also against, namely ABA, restraint, seclusion, and institutions. The reason for not liking them is different, though. They don't want any kind of service provision for autistic people because they see that as accepting that autism is here to stay. So it's for reactionary reasons more than anything. It's actually quite common for anti vaxxers to be against those things as well, but it's because they have their own dubious treatments to promote, which sometimes includes their own unauthorized vaccines, as I have mentioned with Wakefield. Here's one thing I do need to make clear though: Wakefield was not the single creator of the anti vaccine movement, as I've somewhat implied. Like with the neurodiversity movement, it was a combination of a number of people. If you really wanted to tie it back to one single person, Rimlin would probably be a better person to attribute it to, though honestly, it's not a great idea to tie any movement's creation to one single person or entity. Now, moving on, tragedy struck on May 13th, 2006. An autistic girl in Illinois named Katie McCarran was murdered by her mother. She was only 3 years old. Her mother, Karen, suffocated her with a plastic bag for refusing to take a nap. She did it to, quote, end Katie's pain, end quote. It's unthinkable for a 3-year-old to die, especially at the hands of their own mother. However, this is all too common for children with disabilities. Their caregivers murder them because it's seen as a mercy killing. This was done shortly after Autism Everyday premiered. It's not known whether this murder was directly inspired by what Allison Singer said about her own daughter Jodie, but many suspect that it was. Autistic people on the internet created graphics in memory of Katie. Karen was found guilty of murder and was sentenced to 36 years in prison. This was one of the events that inspired the creation of Disability Day of Mourning, which is observed every year on March 1st. Just a quick note here, LiveJournal is an older form of social media that isn't as active now as it used to be. You can create your own profile and write journal entries, as well as host communities for other users to join and write in. It's pretty basic, but I have to say I really like the aesthetics of it. Maybe it's because I'm a stickler for old internet aesthetics. Autistic people in the movement were active there in the late 2000s. From the research I've done, it doesn't seem like anything too significant happened there. But it's still interesting to look back at, and some of it confirms that discourse around subjects like puzzle pieces and self diagnosis has been around for a while. There's a lot of research done on autism. Most of it is biomedical and is not done by autistic people. Autistic people have been trying to change this for years. One such effort is this organization, known as Academic Autism Spectrum Research and Partnership in Education, otherwise known as ASPIRE. ASPIRE was started in 2006 by Dora Raymaker and Christina Nicolaitis. They use a model of research called community based participatory research. This is a model where the researcher and the community members are equal partners throughout the research process. They focus on research topics that are rarely seen in autism research, such as research on what autistic burnout looks like, improving healthcare for autistic adults, and reproductive health. I really like what they do and want to see more organizations like this. Dora and Christina have a track record of representing the neurodiversity movement pretty well. I also like this CBPR model because often we find in autism research that there is a clear power imbalance between the people conducting the study and the subjects, often very much to a detriment. Autistic people are often treated as lab rats. Hell, there are autism studies that literally use rats or mice instead of autistic people to make observations about autistic behavior. Anything that deviates from that is welcome in my book. So now we come to something very well known in autistic spaces. Another infamous ad from Autism Speaks from the year 2009. Now, there are actually a lot of fear based ads like these, but this seems to be the most well known ad from them. It's called I Am Autism. It shows video footage of autistic people, mostly just standing around, with a deep voice narrating it, it says things like, I am autism. I know where you live, and guess what? I live there too. I work faster than pediatric AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined. I will bankrupt you for my own personal gain. I will make sure your marriage fails. It then transitions to family members of autistic people gathering around saying they will do everything in their power to end autism. The script was written by Billy Mann, a longtime board member of Autism Speaks and music producer. The film was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who's directed movies such as Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and Gravity. Prisoner of Azkaban is considered by many to be the best movie in the series, so it's deeply upsetting to see its director's name behind something like this. As for Billy, he did later try to apologize on Facebook, but his apology came off as insincere. Autistic people found it several months after he posted it, told him why they didn't accept the apology, and after trying to defend himself, which caused him to just dig a deeper hole, he deleted the post. Screenshots were saved of the whole event, though. To me, his apology, if you want to call it that, didn't really feel like an apology. He really went off on a tangent about how it was created. Said he wasn't going to say whether autism should be cured or not, and then said that for some autistic people there should be. He also never once said the words "I'm sorry," which is a pretty key component of an apology. He later retweeted things from an autistic fascist about how militant the neurodiversity movement is. So to me, he really hasn't learned anything since 2009. The fact that he also deleted the apology feels to me like he only wrote it in the first place because he was asked to, and not because he was actually sorry. Many parodies of I Am Autism have been made over the years by autistic people, which only cements itself further as an infamous and well known PSA. One really curious thing about I Am Autism is that from the research I've done, it appears that there are very similar writings. One called My Name is Autism from 2004, written by an autistic person named Marty Murphy that puts down a non speaking autistic person, and one from 1978, written by Anne and Watson. The similarities are striking. Now, it's entirely possible that it's a coincidence, and the only reason why there's a similarity between these three pieces is because it's the same subject matter rather than actual plagiarism, but I wouldn't put it past Autism Speaks to do that. If nothing else, it shows that the idea for this PSA was not an original one by any stretch. There was a lot of animosity towards Autism Speaks from the neurodiversity crowd. There's already a lot of animosity. By 2009, activists started to mobilize, many of them being from ASAM. A lot of the protests were in the early 2010s, but there was one protest I could find that was shortly after I Am Autism was released in 2009, that was in Oregon. Autism Speaks likes to do walks for autism as fundraisers. It's one of the things they're best known for by the general public. It's similar to cancer walks, and I think that's by design, seeing as they see autism as a disease and have compared it to cancer. I think the Autism Society of America did the walk thing first, though. A group of people from a local ASAN chapter showed up to an Autism Speaks walk to protest. You can see a picture of that protest here. I believe I believe that's E. Ashkenazi on the left there. You can see the crossed out puzzle piece is similar to the one from Autistic Liberation Front, which I'm sure was a deliberate choice on the protesters' part. These kinds of signs are common at Autism Speaks protests. So now we are approaching the 2010s, which was a very significant decade for the neurodiversity movement. Now, obviously, there's a lot of content from the 2000s and plenty from the 90s, but the 2010s saw some newfound publicity for the movement, really bringing it into the mainstream. At this point, autism was starting to become quite well known, but it was from the perspective that it was a problem that needed to be stomped out. The next chapter will show some more in person mobilization for this movement, among many other things. That's all for now. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And here are my sources as proof I didn't make any of this up.